On this episode of Redneck Light, I replaced the heating element on my dryer that went bad. Unfortunately, I didn't record removing it, but it is very simple to open up the dryer with only a screwdriver. And reassembling the heating element is very straightforward. All you really need is a Phillips head screwdriver. You don't even really need to move it. Everything's accessible from the front. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get started. So as far as opening this up, you only have to really pull it out far enough to get to the screws in the back, and there's only two up at the top. You can do everything to replace the heating element from the front, at least on this particular model. I've read online there are some models that have different bracketry that makes it a little bit hard, but for the most part you just take all the front pieces off. Also get you one of these little magnetic screw holders. First, make sure you unplug your dryer so you don't electrocute yourself. Top will come right off. So the front, and then the front panel, you've got 4 screws all across the top, and you just kind of pull up on the panel and out. You unplug these 2 wires. They've just got a little button on top that you push down to release. Then you got another 4 screws across the top here. You need to take off the door. It's just 2 screws here, and then it's kind of retained with 1 screw kind of halfway out. I'll show you here. So once you've got both those screws undone, you just kind of lift it up a little bit, and then there's a little keyhole that's retaining it. Then you've got 4 more screws along here. 2 of these have washers on the bottom. I don't know if it makes a difference, but just keep that in mind. Fun fact, if you ever want to switch the way your door goes, you can swap the latch over and it'll open the other way. And then these bolts, it's all kind of the same assembly. Now that should be all the screws here. And don't force it, but you should be able to kind of pop this off, and then the whole front cover will come off. And now I already kind of took this out, but there's a few plugs that go into the assembly along with a little jumper wire. Just take a picture of all of this before you take anything else apart. That way you know how everything is. But there's this little bracket that holds up the assembly. So this little bracket here is a consternation for a lot of people. I opened up my dryer to replace the thermostat years ago. And once I got that screw up in the back, I just didn't put it back. I just screwed down up here on the front. That way I didn't have to mess with it going forward. Like I said, I didn't film taking the assembly out, but I'll go ahead and film putting it in. Now is a really good time that you've got everything taken apart to just take your vacuum and vacuum out all that dust and crap, because you probably won't get another good chance to do this. Take your lint thing out and also vacuum that out. And if you've got the time, get back there where the exhaust is and also vacuum all that out. It's just a good idea. It'll prevent fires. So vacuum out as much as you can. So I've got here the old dryer assembly. Basically all we're keeping here is the shell. I've pretty much removed everything, the thermostat, the thermistor. I haven't thrown anything away yet. You want to make sure that the box you get, check what parts you got in there first. Mine even came with more jumper wires, but I'll probably just use the ones that are already part of the wiring harness. So the instructions actually come with, I guess, some of the common complaints they get to basically make sure the heating elements aren't touching each other so they don't short circuit. Basically all you're going to do is take everything out of the old assembly and replace it with the new items. These can be a little tricky, but if you look right there, there's a little tab that's bent up there. I'm going to use some pliers to flatten that down so I can pull these 2 out. There we go. Same with this one. Okay, take the old one out. This is the original heating element in my dryer. It's about 10 years old, and it shows every bar to being 10 years old. thousands upon thousands of heating and cooling cycles have really taken their toll on the little stamped steel here. And of course we have the coil brake right there. Also take the quick second to put them both right next to each other. Make sure that they are roughly the same, mounting and everything else. It probably won't be exactly the same, but it should be close enough. The new one looks like it actually has bigger coils, which is interesting. While you got this open and free of parts, this is a great opportunity to just wipe out. There's probably going to be lots of dust in here. Just wipe all of that out of here. Now honestly it shouldn't really matter, but we're going to try to follow what the original had, where this upper part of the coil plugs into the top and the lower part of the coil plugs into the bottom. So lower part of the coil in the bottom there, and then the upper coil. It said this specifically in the instructions, but it is important to make sure that the coils, number one, that they don't touch the sides of the housing, and number two, that the wires don't actually touch each other. So when you're messing around with the heating elements, just kind of keep that in mind. The heating elements need to be isolated from everything else, so make sure that they're not touching anywhere. Your holes should roughly line up enough to where you can get the cover back on. And so the end here can be a little tricky. These little tabs right there, a little tricky to get on, but yeah, once you have that, be careful. These little metal edges are sharp, but basically you'll get one of these holes lined up, find you a screw, get it started, and get your screwdriver. And then on the side we're going to reassemble our thermal fuse and our thermostat. Now, I've actually replaced these before. They have their own little bracket, and really you can match them up by the holes. So this one has a little bracket and goes with the small hole, and then this one's got a bigger area and it lines up with the bigger hole here. Instead of reusing the old ones, I'm going to put the new ones in and save the old ones just in case these for whatever fail. Because as I say in the car parts world, just because it's new does not mean that it's better, and it does not mean that it works. A lot of these cheap parts are no good right out of the box. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't throw away any of the old stuff. So just kind of check to make sure they roughly look the same. I mean, I'm guessing they're roughly the same, even though they've got slightly different numbers there. You only need to get it snug. You don't need to go He-Man on it or anything. So this is kind of interesting. The pack from Amazon actually came with extra. I'm guessing these are for different dryer models. I'm just going to use the ones that match what I had. You know, worst case, if something doesn't work right, I've got the old sensors here. Really all I needed was the heating element, because that's all that went bad. Realistically, these kits are fairly inexpensive to just replace everything, but if you're on a budget, you might try to replace the thermostat and the thermal fuse first. A lot of times this is all that goes bad and your heating element's fine. One way you can test your heating element is to see if there's continuity on it. That'll tell you really quick if it's the heating element or if it's one of these sensors here. So get yourself a multimeter, then you can test both ends on the continuity mode, and it should read just a few ohms, as long as it's not infinite ohms. That means there's obviously going to be some resistance because it's a heating element, but as long as you do get continuity there, that means your heating element's good. Another real quick test you can do is testing for continuity between that and the housing. If you get any kind of change, if you touch these two together, that means one of the wires on the heating element is touching the outside here, and you're going to short circuit it, and then you'll have to buy a new heating element. You can also just take a look visually in here. Just make sure that those two wires are completely out in the open. They're not touching the sides, they're not touching each other. But we're all set. Everything is installed snugly in the housing. Now it's time to go put it back in the dryer. That screws in, and then there are these two tabs up top that are going to line up with the two tabs in the very back. And in case you did not take a picture beforehand, it's pretty easy. Basically, red wire coming from the harness goes to the top terminal, blue jumper wire from the bottom terminal to the thermostat, then from the thermostat, black jumper wire to top terminal of the thermal fuse, and then blue wire from the harness onto the bottom terminal. So it's kind of like it's making a path. It starts here, goes from here to here, and then across from here to here, and then back into the wiring harness. Don't be silly like me. Do this before you try to push this back in. Alright, so that's going to kind of fit in, and it'll actually, once you have it inside that tube, it'll kind of loosely keep itself up. Then you just fit this bracket underneath by lifting this up. Fit that bracket into place, and then you can screw it in there, and then on those two screws down there. Alright, once you get everything buttoned up down here, just do one last visual check to make sure nothing's pinched and that everything is snugged and fit in there. Now, I opened my dryer many years ago to fix a thermostat, and I did not put in the screw in the back of this bracket, and it has never affected it, no extra rattles or anything, so feel free to leave it out if you had to wrestle it out beforehand. Also, if you unplug this wire to get it out of the way, plug it back in. So now we can go ahead and start reassembling. There's three little tabs that this front cover rests into. Make sure you don't miss this plug up on the top. And then it can kind of snap into place, and then 4 screws across the top. Alright, now the screws down here. Washers. Then you got the door. You just take it and hang it on that keyhole, right with those machine bolts. You got this top cover. It kind of lines up with 2 tabs. Plug in your wiring harnesses, and then that kind of just snaps into place. The top cover, there's 2 little brackets at the end that line up at the back there. You just got the 2 last screws in the back. You're all set. Now it's just time to plug it in and see if it works. Time dry, high heat. We'll see if it warms up. So real easy to test if it warms up. The side over here is going to get hot because that heating element's right here. So just give it a little bit of time to get warmed up. See if you can feel the heat over there. So I can verify already that it's getting real warm right here. You can even smell it a little bit. It's kind of normal. They're brand new heating elements, so some of the shipping material may have to burn off of the heating elements, but it shouldn't pass to your clothes or anything, and it should go away. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not that difficult really. All you have is a bunch of Phillips screws to remove. You have to watch for some sharp metal bits, and otherwise it's a very doable fix, and the parts are very inexpensive. So I hope you enjoy. We'll see you next time.